Shalom, Yasha Allah. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, the bonus of our apostles and elders, a great millstone, who rule well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect that pushes great gospel and sincerity and truth. Bishop Brother Tazakai, Yahweh from the great millstone to the Annapolis camp, coming at you another lesson to the spirit and the power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, and Lord willing be edifying. I got an article here from avalnews.com, and it reads, Putin seeks to buttress global influence with Erdoğan Iran talks. Right? And this article came out, it's updated it came out July 18th, but it's updated July 20th, 2022, the year Yahweh Bashim Mashai turned it up. And real quick, before we get into this, I want to get into that word buttress, right? So right here, it says, buttress, a projecting support of stone or brick built against wall, a source of defense or support. And then also it says what? Provide a building or structure with projecting supports built against its walls. But the one I really wanted was right here. Increase the strength of or justification for reinforce. Right? So what they're ultimately doing is what? Strengthen their ties with these other countries, and also showing their support and being a support system for them. Right? Because we'll get into the scriptures how it says that, Russia will be thou a guard unto these nations. So this is Putin seeking that, to strengthen more, political, military, whatever ties that, that they want to strengthen with these said nations in the article, and other nations as well. So it says, Russian President Vladimir Putin will use a meeting with the leaders of Turkey and Iran in Tehran on Tuesday to help maintain Moscow's leverage in the Middle East, right? So to strengthen those ties and show that the war in Ukraine is not weakening its place on the world stage, the Wall Street Journal reported on Sunday. Putin will meet with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan and Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, and only his second foreign trip since the Russian invasion of Ukraine in late February. A previous one was to Central Asia. His visit comes just days after U.S. President Joe Biden's own tour of the Middle East that's designed to rally Israel and Arab countries and combating the influence of Russia and China, right? So, of course, the stage is being set as far as, with the East and against the West, with various different, nations. But it talks about nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom, rumors of wars. That's why all these little NATO, not let's say NATO, but even NATO as well, these drills and they exercises and all these countries getting together to do their war games, so to speak. Because why? These countries are trying to strengthen their ties with their allies, and also they're preparing for war, right? It says, Russia is realizing there's no future with the West, said Hannah Note, a senior research associate at the Vienna Center for Disarmament, or was that Disarmament, Armament, Slovakia, and Non-Proliferation. According to the journal, its future will have to lie with the global South. Biden did not visit Turkey during his tour of the region. U.S. relations with the Erdogan government have been undermined by Ankara's close relations with Moscow and its fractious ties with Israel and other key Middle Eastern powers, right? So that shows what? Tension amongst NATO, right? And then there's also, also in the EU, there's tensions. They all, there's various articles, some things that's getting passed, they not liking it, they not all agreeing on it, they not, what I'm saying? So even with this situation with them trying to bring in, Finland and Sweden, Turkey is not okay with that. So, they part of NATO. So going on, it says, part of the beast. It says, Erdogan, who refuses to sanction Russia or its oligarchs for the invasion of Ukraine, has sought to repair relations with nations such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, and to act as a mediator in talks to end the Ukraine war and to free up the export of Ukrainian grain. The direction of the president's visit abroad speaks to where he now sees the need and the opportunity for Russian diplomacy, said Dmitry Trenin, a pro-Kremlin foreign policy analyst, according to the journal. The three leaders are due to discuss Syria under the so-called Astana process, which is designed to lay down a post-conflict future for the Arab country. Putin is also seeking to cement relations. That conflict that's been going on there in Syria been going on for a decade. Just been going on where you got pro, like I said, it's proxy war, but you got forces with Turkey, saying they backing forces. You got Russia backing forces. They back what's his name? Is it damn Bashir Assad or something like that? And you got like the Kurds and all them fighting over there. Then you got Israel. It's been an ongoing conflict over there, in Syria. So it says Putin is also seeking to cement relations with Iran, a key military and trading partner for Moscow, and is dangling the prospect of grain deliveries to the country to help combat its surging food prices, the newspaper said. Russians are now flocking to Iran, often to discuss how they can circumvent sanctions. Iranian businessmen say the newspaper reported Turkey is also allowing Russian businessmen into the country, saying they are welcome as tourists or as investors. Putin will stress to Erdoğan and Raisi that Russia remains a key player in Syria despite the distraction and cost of the war in Ukraine, said Fyodor Lukashenko, I don't know, chairman of a Kremlin advisory board on foreign and defense policy. The journal reported Russia has intensified some military operations in Syria in recent weeks, while Turkey is planning an operation across its border to northern Syria to wrest land from Kurdish militants who have been allied with the United States in the war against ISIS. Washington has strongly opposed any such operation. Russia has also opposed it. Erdogan, who has sought to use relations with Putin to help forge a more independent foreign policy for a country previously entrenched in the Western political orbit, has attempted to position himself as a key mediator in the Ukrainian crisis and has hosted 2 rounds of unsuccessful peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. Turkey is probably the only country that Russia is ready to look at as a mediator in this conflict, Lukashenko said. There are currently no grounds for peace talk, but at some point there will be. And then there's other articles that said, Putin seeks to cement ties with, Turkey and Iran. I just, use this article, but pretty much the same thing's going on in that article, just in this one. Pretty much, besides what's going on, where it may be minor differences, whatever, they still are strong allies with each other, and that's why Putin's trying to, have that, like you say, he's trying to cement, pretty much, where it's to help maintain Moscow's leverage in the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? So that's why he's building those strong ties with those stronger, so-called Middle Eastern, nations, and Arab nations as well. So just like I say, let me see. Say Russia, Slovakia seeks to cement Slovakia. Just to, prove what I was saying about, see, like right here, say Putin seeks to cement ties with Iran, Turkey with rare triple bra. So that's what this is doing. Saying he's cementing his ties, building them up, buttressing, strengthening, saying being a support to those various nations, and like I said, these all go ultimately into prophecy, which we're going to get right into. This is Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 1. And the word of the Lord Yahweh Shemashai came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog. Whereas the land of Magog is what was now what we call, Russia. Right? The chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. So the chief prince, is, like Apostle Harbin mentioned, the chief princes go back to Russia. Right? It says, and prophesy against him. Right? And say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Shemashai power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Right? So the Lord is against them. Ultimately, because why? These are Edomites. Right? But what Yahweh Shemashai is going to do is he's going to use them to fight against their other counterparts, their other brothers, to bring in and, to lead the charge of World War III. Right? He's going to use Russia, Gog or the chief prince, to lead the charge against who? Babylon the Great, and their allies, and so forth and so on. Right? Now, understand, we got some of these names right here, right? It says, and we're going to get to it real quick after I read this. It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaw. So it's the Lord controlling Russia, right? And I will bring thee forth in all thy army, horses and horsemen, right? Going to the military. And all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, right? And we understand what? That the modern day sword is who? Is what? The gun. Right? So this is the Lord. He's controlling the military of Russia, right, and various other militaries of other nations as well. They say what Persia, right? Persia goes back to who? The Iranians, right? That's what the Iranians go back to, the Persians. Even like other names they just call Carmenians, but in that region they have they capital at a point that was called Persis, which Persia, where the Iranians they Elamites, so Persia, and we understand we just read in that article that he's seeking to cement ties with Iran, right? That's Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. So they're gonna be on the side of the line with Russia. And to further prove of that with Ethiopia and Libya, I did this, for brothers and sisters tuning in. Let's look up what they say about Russia's ties with Ethiopia. In 1943, Ethiopia and the Soviet Union established diplomatic relations. Since then, right? Up until this day, great power competition and evolving political and economic interests have shaped the bilateral relationship between Ethiopia and the Soviet Union, and now Russia, because that's what Russia used to be called, the Soviet Union. So they are friends. They support each other, right? So they say Russia is building its military influence in Africa, right? And it speaks about with Nigeria and Ethiopia, Africa's two most populous nations, right? So this right here proves ties that Russia and Ethiopia, they prove their ties together, right? It says what? Also, didn't it say Libya? Right here, you type that in. Russia also regards Libya as one of its strongest allies in the Arab world and has supported stabilization of the country following the aftermath of the Libyan civil war. Right, so this shows rare, like say how Russia sways its way to more influence in Libya. So that's not showing that Libya is also an ally to Russia. And then of course we already read about Iran, so this is Ezekiel 38 coming to pass in its fruition, right? We experiencing and seeing prophecy come to pass before our eyes, right? It say Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands and many people with them. Now, like we said, we got these names real quick because Gomer ultimately is going into Turkey, and then you got like you say Meshach and Tubal, Gog and Magog. Now let's get the map real quick so you can have understanding. Slakia. So the map from 1874. So as you can see, right, if you see Gomer, the arrow, the little Gomer, to the left with the arrow pointing down, that's actually that whole area of Turkey right there. You see Gomer in the middle right below the Togarmah sign. And then you got Togarmah and Meshach and Tubal going to what? Like the areas of Armenia, Georgia, those areas. Those would be like the north quarters right there. Right, and then Magog, that's going up north. So if you go up north from that portion, in between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, you going up. That's the land of Magog, which goes to what? The land of Russia. This is how you tie these things together with the scriptures pertaining to this chapter. Because on the far right of this Caspian Sea, what's that? That's Kazakhstan, which Kazakhstan was formerly a part of the Soviet Union, part of Russia, and they still have strong ties with them. They pretty much still Russia as well, But just giving the idea of who Gomer is, Togarmah is, Meshach and Tubal, that's all that region right here. And Turkey going on up to Magog, So that's why I say it speaks about what? Talking about of the north quarters and all his bands and many people with these. So going into that Armenia, Georgia area, Azerbaijan, Slovakia, but mainly Georgia and Armenia. They're going on up to Magog, right? So again, like Gomer is Turkey. So what is being said right here is yes, Turkey is part of NATO. They are still allies to America, various EU nations right now. But what we understand via prophecy is going to come to pass that what? Turkey is going to turn against NATO and the Western allies, is going to side wholeheartedly with Russia. Right? You could say Gomer and all his bands too. You get what I'm saying? Talk about what? The chief prince of what? Meshach and Tubal, that whole region. Verse 7. Be thou prepared for what? For battle, for war. World War III. And prepare thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So that's talking to who being thou a guard to them? Gog. Magog, what say? Face of Gog, the land of Magog. So Gog is the land, but Magog, right? The chief prince. That's talking about Russia. Russia say, be thou a guard to them. Russia is the big dog in this picture. That's why he's assimilating all these nations unto him. And he telling them, man, we're going to protect you. We're going to be on your side. We're going to support you. This is all going to prophecy. You get what I'm saying? It ain't of man's will. It's of the spirit of Yahweh Shemel Shai. Let's get another precept real quick in regard to those nations banding together. Coming from the North Country, which is in this tense talk about Russia. So right here, Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations. Right, the Lord said He's gonna put the hooks in the jaws of God. Right, and the great nations from the North Countries talk about who? Russia. Right, so the main one who's going to lead the charge against Babylon the Great is Russia, with all those bands and all those armies and other nations assembled underneath them of those who he's protected, being the guard unto. They go fight with them. It say, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Right, so it's telling you that Babylon will be taken down. Babylon will fall. America will lose. So we're telling you that now. Says their arrows, which is going to the nuclear missiles, thermonuclear warheads, shall be as of a mighty expert. None shall return in vain, because while they're going to hit their mark, it's going to be, like I said, as a mighty expert, will hit with precision, perfection. Right? Because why? Those missiles are going to be guided by the spirit of Yahweh Shemel Shai. Right? And they part of the Yahweh Shemel Shai's army. I guess I'll prove that point real quick. Boom, 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 boom. Now, because you read from the top up here, these is going into the missiles, but I won't get the point. It says, Slovakia. So after it's running to talk about the missiles, it says what? Verse 10, verse 11. And the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai shall utter his voice before his army. Now, like I said, in the previous verses, it's talking about the missiles. So that means what? The missiles are a part of the Lord's army. So utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great, for he is strong that executeth his word. It's the will Yahweh Shemel Shai for Babylon the Great to be destroyed. Right? For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible. Who can abide it? The only ones going to be able to abide the day of Yahweh Shemel Shai will be the elect, when they beamed up into the chariots from deliverance, from destruction that's coming to the whole entire earth. But the mainly, if you're in Babylon the Great, it's going to be utterly destroyed with the land of Israel, but will be built back up. So just proving that point. So, let me think. Something else on my mind. Lord, will it come to me? So yeah, just, pretty much, going to this article, just showing you that Russia is stripping its times, and it's showing the prophecies of Yahweh Shemel Shai that Russia's going to be, big bro to these smaller countries. And they're going to come assemble with them. Matter of fact, go back to that. Right here, Ezekiel 38 verse 7. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So Russia is going to be, because remember now it's three superpowers. You got America, then you got Russia, and you got China. And guess who's allied with Russia out of those superpowers? China. Going to the BRICS nations. Right? And more nations are being added to that as well. That's going to be the counterpart against NATO, that's being built up right now. So this is the prophecy that's going to come to pass. And I'm going to end it off over here, going back to Joel, because the time of wars, is at the door. It's prophesied for World War III to come to pass. World War III got to come to pass before the elect of the nation of Israel are to be delivered. Right? This is Joel chapter 3, verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Right? Prepare war. Wake up the mighty man. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. And do what? Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, right? So all those tools that's used for, just anything like mining, agricultural, anything that has to do with like maybe crafting or harvesting, whatever the case may be, turn those items into weapons, right? Why? Because you're now in a time of war. So he's not in a time of, peace and everything being cool and subtle. No, it's a time of war, right? I believe that goes. So let me see real quick. Right here, Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 8. A time to love, right? There's a time to love, but it's not right now. And a time to hate. Hate has covered the whole entire earth. These nations hate each other. Like Sarah said, the nations were mad, but they ultimately hate and despise Babylon the Great. Ultimately, you so-called white people, right? It's a time of war. That's the time that we're in right now. It's a time of war and a time of peace. And the peace ain't going to come till the restoration of the Israelites, till the kingdom come. That's when peace is going to be issued throughout the whole entire earth. Start with Yahweh, while Yahweh Shai, King David set up as the king, and then the rest of the elect underneath them. That's when peace is going to be reestablished in the earth. But right now we're in the time of war. Right, so it say beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, "I am strong." Why? Because the weak got those nuclear missile capabilities that only certain nations had at the point in time. Now they got them too, and not only do they got those missiles too, what they got strong allies as well. So they like, hey man, hey, pull up, do what you gonna do. We got backup over here, right? That's why Biden was talking about, let's not pursue too much when there's war, because then we're gonna go into World War III and this and that. Yeah, they ultimately scared. But the thing is, they still going to World War III no matter what you want. My nigga, Verse 11. Assemble yourselves and come, all you heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh by Shemel Shai. Guess why? The angels going to get it. They going to come down and get it too. Revelation 12 say Michael and his angels as well. Right, so the angels going to get some too when they pull up with who? With Yahweh Shai HaMashiach leading the charge. Right? It say, let the heathen be wakened. Come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. So pay attention to the Middle East. That's where everything's going to pop off. That's where everything's going to crack at. That's why you're starting to see more tensions going between Iran and Israel. That's where it's going to start, between them in the Middle East. And all these nations, with their allies, they're going to go down there and they're going to get it in. That's where the valley of Jehoshaphat is, in our land. But ultimately, mainly the Middle East, right? Near the Euphrates. And they say, for there I will sit to judge all the heathen round about. So the Lord going to judge you, going to put you to death via his son. And the holy angels and, those nukes, those missiles. So that's what's coming to pass, right? The war is coming to pass. So, hey, man, it don't matter if you want it or not. Hey, it's inevitable at the end of the day, So that was just all I want to go into, just showing the prophecy of Ezekiel 38, coming to pass, it being more evident in these times right now. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying to sincere Aquath out there listening. I want to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect that pushes the great gospel and sincere truth. Shalom, Yasha Allah, Abai, Babal.